Good morning, guys. Welcome to my first fluid sim tutorial in a while. So very many people have been asking about splashes and droplets and interacting with geo, so we're going to get into it. I hope that this is going to be helpful for anyone somehow, some way. Okay, let's start real quick. Let's create the geometry that basically is going to interact with as well as emit the fluid. So let's start with we can do a tube. All right, we're going to reduce the radius scale. 0.2 probably could be good. I'm going to use a polyfill for the end caps. I prefer the polyfill because it creates extra geometry. So I'm just going to pick out the quadrilateral fan because I like the way it bulges over, so I can have a bit of a curvature at the end. Surface offset, just a second. Let me increase the resolution of the tube also. Okay. Fan, quadrilateral fan. Quadrilateral. No. I think it's the quadrilateral grid. Yes, the quadrilateral grid. Yeah, it has a nice curvature that it makes at the edges. So I'm going to reduce the tangent strength, reduce the surface offset to 0. You see, you have a nice bulging outward shape. Just kind of reduce that tangent strength a little bit so that it looks like a nice makeup-ish kind of product thing. Then I'm going to add a null. I'm just going to call it out collision. The next thing we're going to do is create the sphere that's going to be emitting the fluid. So let's just make a sphere. I'm going to turn the viewport. That's big. The sphere is quite big. So I'm going to change the viewport background to dark so that you can see this more clearly. That's a big sphere. We don't want that much fluid. So I'm just going to reduce it because it's basically a drop, or just a huge drop going to the product. So 0.2 looks like it's a nice size. I'm going to move it off center X around 2 units. Okay, that's a little bit far. Let's say 1.5 units. Okay, that looks good. So the idea is that the fluid is going to come from the sphere and go sploshing onto the product. So we need to probably also create custom velocities for that particular function. So what we're going to do now is we'll create points from volume. This is a very quick and dirty way of getting an R&D done. So it's not necessarily the best way, but it's the fastest way I use. So let's add a null to the points from volume so that we can view the points better. We'll call this out emission points. Emission points. Okay, let's go back to the points from volume. Highlight it. You can see you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 points. So let's increase the resolution to 0.2, maybe 0.1. It's a little bit too even. Let's jitter the scale. Just 1 is fine. So it's a bit more random. We are not going to need to jitter the seed because it's only emitting from the first frame. So that's going to be okay. So let's see. Let's add now we're going to create the forces. So let's add an attribute wrangle. It's a custom force basically. So let's add an attribute wrangle for points, that is. And then what we're going to do is velocity is going to be v at v is going to be equals to channel vector velocity direction. So essentially that's going to create a channel. Oh, sorry, let me edit that out. Yeah, so that's going to create a channel. We're going to click on this, which says create spare parameters for each unique call. So when you click on it, it's going to create this channel down here. So now we have velocity direction. Essentially the velocity, the direction that we're going to add to the fluid is going to be based on X, Y, or Z. So we can decide what exactly where exactly we want the fluid to move and how fast or how slow. So let's now go ahead and create the simulation container for this, and it's going to be the drop network. And then we're going to go into the drop network. We're going to create a flip object. Then we're going to create a flip solver. Then we're going to create some gravity. Sorry, no, not gas volume ramp. Gravity. Plug that in, plug it to the output, click L to rearrange, and you're going to see that there's a certain representation of the fluid. Let me take it back to light so that you can see this. It's not exactly what we want to see, plus that's a default representation of any emission fluid. So we're going to use our emission points added to the SOP path on the flip object. So let's add that. And then the representation is still not there, so we need to change it, the input type, to particle field. Now we can see that it's still representing us in, I think it's called sprites. So let's go to the guides. Let's go to particles, change that visualization from sprites to particles. And that's exactly what we need to see. That's exactly how the fluid is going to look when you're simulating. Now the grid is huge. When you look at the flip solver, the grid parameters are huge. It's going to calculate some bit of something in that space if you keep it large. So it's going to be slow. So we're going to change that a little bit in the volume motion tab. On the volume limits, box size, let's do 333. See how big that is. Let's zoom in. Okay, it's missed the fluid emission start a bit, so let's just custom drag it to make it better. Let's look at it. Oh, let's add the collision first so that we can be able to visualize everything together. I'll change this to setup. Okay, select that, go to collision, static object. Flip does everything for you because flip is cool like that. Let's rearrange the setup. So now we have everything there. I'm going to go up here and make sure I hide other objects. So I only see anything, the window I'm selecting is the only things I see. So now we can see the size of the box relative to the simulation. Probably I'm going to make it dark. And then, so we need some space to simulate so that there's the area where we're going to see the splash from the back, splash from the top, and splash from the bottom. So I think this area is okay. We can just tighten it a bit because there's nothing that's going to happen behind there. This is look from the top. I think we'll reduce that a little bit. I think that's fine. So let's play this back and see what we have. Oh, okay, that's weird. So if you go to the second frame, you see we are losing resolution. That's because in the fluid setup, we haven't attached the flip object to the points from volume. So let's just go to the particle separation, drag that over to the point separation on the points from volume, relative channel reference. And now we have exactly the same parameter being controlled by the particle separation. So let's increase that to 0.01. There you see our fluids. Let's look at the resolution. Middle mouse click on flip object. You'll see it's 4066 points on the geometry. Rule of thumb is always do more than 10 when you're previewing. So let's go back down to 0.06. 18,000, that's fine. We can start with that. That's a good starting point. So let's see what happens now if we play this back. Cool. So the fluid is maintaining its volume, and the only thing that's affecting it is the gravity force, which is going down by 9.8, negative 9.8. So what we need to do is complement those forces so that we have something that's going to bring the fluid from the X direction towards the product. And what we're going to basically use the attribute wrangle we created for the forces to do this. So let's go back to the attribute wrangle, probably name it forces for clarity. And the first thing we're going to do is, because we are on X and we want to go in the negative X direction, we're going to probably do -5. Let's see what happens when we play that back. Nice. So we've basically added something to complement the force that's coming from the gravity. Let's do a little bit upward so that it looks like somebody has thrown it up, like the fluid's being splashed from the bottom going up. So let's do 2 in up and let's see how that plays out. Nice. And you have a very quick and dirty splash in no time at all. So let's look at it. That looks nice. It's spreading out quite nicely. But what we are after is tendrils and droplets. So let's get deeper into everything that we need to do. So we're going to go to the flip solver, and the flip object is fine for now. Let's go to the flip solver. Let's move to the volume motion tab. Change the flip velocity transfer to swirly. It's very good for very small scale simulations. Splashy can tend to be good for large scale, but if you're going for droplets, viscous stuff, tiny fluids, swirly is the way to go. So change that from splashy to epic swirly. Let's go to the surface tension tab, switch it on. The default is 10. And I guess we can take a look and see what happens with that. Ooh, now that's not good. So what's happening here is flip is very sensitive to scale, scene scale. So especially surface tension. And in this particular case, the scene scale is really small. And this is where I keep telling guys that it can tend to be a bit of a trial and error to figure out what your scene scale is and how best it is to go about it. So because this scene scale is small, the surface tension is really strong. So we're going to go to the minimum sub steps. This is where we're going to start. Let's take it really high. Let's go like 6 to 8 to see, to basically increase the calculations. So let's play that back. You can see it's maintaining more of the volume. It's still losing out quite a bit, but we're already starting to get our tendrils. What we need to do is fix the volume first of all. Okay, let's go back to the flip. Let's go back to the surface tension. Sorry, let's go back to the sub steps. Let's go to 10 and 12. Let's see how high we can go without losing volume. You can still see the shape of the fluid keeps changing before it even splashes. We're getting some tendrils, which are cool. We're also actually getting some droplets, which is nice, but we're still losing volume, quite a bit of volume. So my hack is I tend to, let me change the frame rate to the frame scale to 48 frames. I tend to use a bit of a cheat that allows me to preview my fluids faster and at the same time use less substeps. Though the flip side is I get a lot more data. So I go to the flip solver, I reduce the time scale to like 0.3, and I reduce this, the substeps to like 5 and 6. So the time scale is going to increase the calculations per frame. And as you can see, we are no longer losing volume. We can still preview our fluid, and we're previewing it in a high quality. In a good quality anyway. Look at that. We're getting splash, tendrils, and nice sheets. Basic sheets, not bad. Nice. Looks good already. And this is just R&D, and it's really quick. So now we can go back to the flip solver, go to the surface tension tab and increase it to, let's say, 20. See what happens. Nice. Getting sheets, getting tendrils and everything. Let's go back to the flip solver. Let's increase this to 50. Now let's do 60. Let's play that back, and now it starts to break up. That means we need more calculations per frame to make it better. But look at the globs that it's forming really nicely. So first of all, let's go back to the substeps and set them at 8 and 10. Which is cool. Nice. You see, we're maintaining resolution. Nice. Check those out. Looks good. And you can imagine you're doing this straight out of the box. No custom tools, nothing. This is just pretty much R&D on Houdini's base setup. So let's increase the velocity to 7 so that we can have a bit more of a splash. I'm going to increase the resolution of the fluid. It's a bit low still. So let's do 0.005, which is going to give us 32,000 points. And let's simulate. You can imagine how little particles I'm using right now, and we are getting this kind of a result. Let's play this back and see. The fluid is starting to lose a bit of resolution again. So that means we need to bump up our sub steps or our time scale. So let me do the time scale hack first. So I'll take it down to 0.2. Let's see what happens. Already a very, very big change. You can imagine how much you've saved yourself on sub steps there. Nice. Look at the sheets forming before they break down into the tendrils, and then they break down into the droplets. Very cool process. So you can imagine how far you can push this if you decide to go at really high resolutions and probably more sub-steps, better forces. But the only thing we've used so far right now is the gravity, the native gravity, and the added forces, the custom forces that we've put in. And the custom forces wasn't a difficult thing to do. And look at that. Look at the splash. Look at that. Let me go frame by frame so that you can see what's happening. So every time I tell guys I use flip straight out of the box, guys don't believe me. This is the process. It's as pretty much as simple as this. You just have to understand the way you go about it. So let's create a DOP import fields so that we can cache our files. Create our file cache. Let's create our particle fluid surface. That's going to represent the points. I'm going to increase the resolution again to 0.004, add the substeps to 10 and 12. So that we can get a better quality from the cache we're going to create right now. Okay, let's play this back. Let's see. Good stuff. Check that out. Nice. Let's merge it with the original geo because it's a static geo. We can just merge it from the outside so that we can see it all together. Shift R to switch. And there we go. Let's see that. Fantastic. Fantastic. So now what I want to do is create that bullet time effect. So let's do a retime just on the particle fluid surface points. Okay, we're going to probably retime from that point. Speed 1. Let's set the interpolation to cubic and the unmatched points to delete. I just realized something. I forgot to add IDs, and it's necessary for a retime to have IDs. So let's switch on all these properties on the particle behavior, particle motion behavior node. I'm going to cache this again. Cool stuff. That's done. Let's go back to the retime node and set the keyframes again. I want it to retime from when it splashes onto the product. So let's go to frame 36 and set it to 0.3. Let's see how that looks. I'll change the frame rate to 96 because we're going to have a lot more frames playing back because it's slower. Let me do an angle for you. Let's go to the flipbook settings, go to size, switch off resolution, effects, high quality. That's how I get high quality previews, and start. There we go. Hits, slows down. Nice. Let's play this back. Splash. So cool. Splash. Nice. Okay, let's retime it even slower. I really go for really slow time. Let's do 0.2, 0.1. Yeah, 0.1. Let's see how that looks. Let's see, output frame is fine, input is fine. All right, let's play it back, see what happens. Goes, hits, and super slow-mo. Nice. All right, let's play that back and see what we have as our end result. Boom. The Matrix. Boom. Nice. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Ideally, this lesson was meant to cover, first of all, doing very quick R&D on splashes, small scale splashes, interacting splashes with geo, and creating tendrils, droplets, as well as retiming for a bullet time effect. And I hope you have enjoyed this session. I will see you guys next time.